Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes ball. Speedball might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Wolves Fancast, part of the 90min Football Network. I am joined with four magnificent people on this wonderful Sunday night. I'm in a good mood, guys. England have won the Euros. We've scraped a draw against Ferez ARB team. Could life be any better tonight, guys?
The stars are aligned. What a wonderful evening.
Exactly. I was going to say, I should probably introduce you, just let everyone else know who's with us. We've got Matt, we've got Tom, we've got Andy and Pricey. How are we all doing this evening? I'm magnificent. I hope you guys are too.
Good. Very good.
All good, mate. Can't complain.
Nice to have the championship season back as well. It's been a festival of football so far, so it was nice.
I was going to say, it sounds a bit silly. Have you missed it? Or have you enjoyed having the off, a bit of a break to, pause away from football? But now, I think championship back again. Burnley Friday night, was it? It feels like we're back.
It didn't feel like that long ago that I said I felt a bit football fatigued, if I'm honest. But then all of a sudden, like with the build up to everything, and it's nice to have it back, and getting the build up for a Friday evening game as well, and just the people at work talking about it and predictions for the season and stuff like that. It's exciting to have football back for sure.
Yeah, it feels like.
Can we use what Tony Pulis once said about us? Our illustrious neighbours started last week. When he put that on when he tweeted that out years, it would have been years ago, obviously. And every year we must take every opportunity to throw that back in their faces.
I completely agree. We're going to talk a little bit about the preseason games that have kind of wrapped up the schedule that have happened over this weekend. Primarily, we're going to talk about the Sporting Lisbon game that happened yesterday as of time of recording, because there was another friendly, which was primarily the B team, you could argue, or the second choice 11. Both games ended 1-1. But we'll talk Sporting Lisbon because I think this gives our biggest indication of what the starting lineup is going to be against Leeds. I'll just bring it up now. So essentially it was star in goal, back four of Johnny, Collins, Kilman and Aït-Nouri, with notable absence of Connor Cody in a back four, of course. Midfield three of Neves, Donk and Moutinho, with Gibbs, White, Neto and Podence up front as Jimenez is injured. I guess my question, I'll kind of randomly pick on Tom here. Would you be happy if that's the starting lineup against Leeds?
With the current players available, then yeah, probably. We can't really be too choosy at the moment. If you look at that bench, I made this reference in the podcast we did a week or two ago. I mean, that bench, who you putting in from that bench into that 11. So no, that's the 11 that we've got to pick, unless we pull a couple of rabbits out of the hat this week, which seems unlikely as things stand.
Yeah, that bench is shoddy. Although that man Huang's got on the goal sheet tonight. We're turning a corner. We talked about it last week, didn't we, Tom? That we get guys, and we're all on board with this. I know, Pricey, you're firmly usually, you've got 2 feet in positive club. We're going to stay positive right up into that Leeds game, and until if they have not performed in the first 5 minutes, then we can get the pitchforks out.
I suppose it's difficult for Huang to have a bad first touch from a penalty, isn't it? I suppose, but it's
best first touch he's had. His first touch usually does go about 12 yards, so that's about right.
Yeah.
Again, I'll have a hand up again. New season, new slate. I'm starting again with him. I've said it last week. I'll say again. I'm starting again. I'm not using his new moniker where a certain letter at the end of his name is changed. I'm not going to use that just yet. I'm not going to use that. He's going to have to earn that moniker. But I'm starting again with him, clean slate.
I mean, I am slightly disappointed we did make it essentially a season without changing his name to have a K at the end. Like I feel like we could and should have done it more, but I think it stands to our testament that we didn't, to be honest. But I mean, a lot of it's much of the same because we haven't really made any signings. I guess the two main changes is Gibbs White coming in, who's like a new signing if you ask Jeff Shee, and Collins coming in at the back. Overall, I mean, I think the Lisbon game sort of personified it for me, but across the whole pre-season, is it fair to kind of say that we have been more attacking? Would you say, Matt?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it certainly felt it in the first 20, 30 minutes yesterday. The issue becomes when you struggle to break a team down and then you make those changes at 65, 70 minutes. Bearing in mind that the rest of the league are going to have 5 bites of the cherry to make changes as well, when we've got this, horrendous squad depth. That's the worry. But the initial style definitely looks more attacking. It's not quite gung-ho like the first 3 games of Bruno's Wolves' career with us in the league, but it does give us a bit more attacking fluidity. I'd commented at the time yesterday that both teams looked fantastic as soon as they got to the 18-yard line, and it all fell apart. And that's a kind of a worry because that's exactly how it felt like last season as well. So I'm not entirely sure we've quite seen the fruits of Laj's labour yet when it comes to the attacking, but definitely has a more attacking feel.
Yeah, completely. And I think as Tom, you hinted out when we talked about the starting lineup, it's probably the best lineup we've got with the players available because to coin an Andy Gillard phrase here, there is a level of all fart, no shit. Yes, Andy.
It's very accurate, isn't it? I think there's it's that centrepiece signing that we've been missing. I think when we look at, especially in the attacking sense, that we've always been one injury away from disaster, and we feeling that even more now when we've loaned out our only backup striker, and then our main man then gets injured. So we're on the precipice of disaster. But I don't want to be too negative because I do feel like Pedence's probably, of the players we've got left, I think he's the most suited to play that almost false 9 role. And in the past, when we've tried to do a false 9, it's looked absolutely fucking dreadful. But the few times we've done it so far and granted it's only pre-season, but it's looked a lot more cohesive with that front 3.
Yeah, it's looked a lot more. I love the phrase false 9 because there's a big difference between a false 9 and playing someone who isn't a striker up top.
Yeah.
And there are times when it looks like that. But you say between Neto, Podence, and Gibbs White, they've all kind of got experience of playing in a more central position. And, even for the penalty against Sporting Lisbon, but the efforts from Neto to get him behind, which is something that we've massively missed for the last, 18 months, you could argue, as Wolves fans, pretty much since he got injured, to be honest. We've not really had that threat behind or that drive to kind of beat a man in that final third. And, seeing Ruben Neves, who looks magnificent. I mean, I know we should talk about the football, but my word, that man's gorgeous, isn't he?
Just aesthetically gorgeous.
Yeah. Like upsettingly so, frankly, in my opinion. I was going to say I'm going off on a wild tangent.
There's a reason why,
and the armband as well. I know. It must be the heat. I'm telling you, but he's going to be captain as well. No, hopefully no one comes in and pinches him. That seems to have kind of gone very quiet in terms of transfer rumors around him. So you've got to be hoping for a big season from him as well, yet again, haven't you, Matt?
I think so. The fact that no one has come in for him yet, touch wood, I do feel like the market still feels really slow. The transfer market in general. Like I know there's been business and some big names, but that domino effect signing, I don't think's happened yet. Like I always thought that might be anyone who United signs for stupid money would get the ball rolling for a lot of teams and start that domino effect. But he's going to be absolutely pivotal, Neves, to our success. whoever plays as the deeper of those midfielders in that four are going to have a lot of work to do in comparison to any midfielder who plays slightly deeper when we've got a five. So it's going to be interesting to see how we can balance that out, because, fans want to see Neves further up the pitch, but Neves probably wants to sit a little further back, actually. He's been doing that for his career prior to Wolves, and he's going to be huge for us this season. And like Andy said very aptly, we're one injury away from a catastrophe. So it's really about keeping Neves fit and keeping that midfield three as much as possible, then playing in some stability.
I think we're really lucky.
No, definitely.
To be honest,
you're right.
Sorry, I was just going to say. I think we're really lucky with regards to Neves, in so much that when you think who's buying, that at the minute, no one needs a Neves right now for probably what it would cost to get him out of our club. The only ever likely destination for him was like a Man United, but they're just hell bent on getting De Jong, and I don't know. I just don't see him. I don't see Neves going there, and I just think we're really, really lucky that no elite level club just needs him right now. So I don't think he has many doors and windows open to him at the moment. As daft as that sounds, I don't think none of these elite clubs doubt that he's an absolutely fantastic player. It's just that they've already got the vacancy filled in that team, for the position or the role that Neves carries out for us. And that's obviously to our benefit. And I mean, look, we've just, you mentioned it at the top of the show, Rich. The big talking point of this pre-season is who's the big absentee from what will likely be our starting lineup, and that's Cody. And that's something else that Neves will be the beneficiary of, because he will now be the captain of the team. Which, I don't know, is that the ploy? Is that a ploy to keep Neves, give him the armband? But I mean, look, we have been here before last year when Bruno even started the first 3 games differently, then reverted back to what we kind of know. So we're not out the woods yet in so much that we think that we're definitely going to start with the back 4 come the first game of the season and then stick with it. I mean, it's likely, it's very much so a realistic possibility that we do start with that back 4 next Saturday. And Cody, unfortunately, is the one to miss out. And how he takes that, I'm sure he'll take that fine. I mean, we discussed it in our chat group before, that he'll still have his role to play in the season when we come up against the bigger boys and we switch to 3 at the back again. Potentially, that's an option. But I'd say of the pre-season so far, that is the big talking point. Is around. It looks as though he's decided to go with Collins and Kilman, and then obviously the narrative and the story will be, how's Cody going to take that? How is that going to affect the leadership in the dressing room?
Yeah, I mean that really does bring us on nicely on to the situation and the back 4 in general. I mean, as far as I can see, I've been pleasantly surprised. Yeah, we look a little bit more open, but it just almost feels like I'm just used to there being an extra body in there. Would you guys be happy with not even just Leeds, but the first 3 or 4 games while we're kind of all still gelling, having that back 4 of Johnny, Kilman, Collins, and Ait-Nouri, who I must say Ait-Nouri again seems to have pushed on another level pre-season, in my opinion. I know someone said it in the YouTube comments as well. I think it was big listener Dean Marston said it as well.
Yeah, Ait-Nouri's starting to look like a Champions League level player already. I know when we signed him, we all thought he was going to end up being a bit of a Vinagre Mark II. He's got all the gear, no idea, but that's not it at all now. Like, you look at him and you think, yeah, you're destined for the biggest of big clubs by the looks of him. He looks outstanding. As for the back 4, I don't see a point in chopping and changing. If we're going to go with it, we're going to have to go with it for a good run. Give it until the end of September at least. If it's going completely wrong, then okay, you reevaluate at that point. But if you're only going to do it for 2 or 3 games and then revert to a 5 and then back to a 4, you're never going to get that level of consistency to learn the formation. So I think that they've just got to stick with it now. And we do look a lot more composed than we did when we did the back four this time last year during pre-season. Look, we had a few games at back four and we were excited about the possibilities, but it still looked a little bit ramshackle. Whereas now there's this level of composure at the back between Kilman and Collins. I think Cody's days are numbered in a back four. There were always that question about whether or not he could make that transformation anyway. He's not the kind of defender who does that. He's not someone who's going to lunge in when he needs to. He's the one who's going to take the step back and try and mop it up. So I don't think he will make the leap, unfortunately. I think he's a good player to keep around the club going forward, but I don't think he's there for the starting position. But yeah, back four, as it was yesterday for me, bar Semedo making a miraculous return. But even then, he would need a bit of time to catch up.
I think they complement each other really well, Kilman and Collins, really well. I think obviously naturally got the balance there with one being right-footed and the other left-footed, and they both carry the ball really well. There was a couple of times in the Lisbon game where they carried it past 2 or 3, took a few men out of the game, and I think that makes a big difference. I mean, there's as much as I like Cody, that's not his game. His game's to sit deeper and then spray it about. We never see him take a man on or anything like that. And I think Kilman needs Collins. He seems very vocal. Again, I think he's had captaincy roles already, and even though he's a youngster, he seems like he's a leader and organiser. And I think Kilman, gives the impression he's quite quiet. He might need someone just to talk him through a game. And I think as a pair, I think that there's a real. It looks like a real promising partnership for me.
Yeah, I think my kind of thoughts on Cody is that we kind of went into last season with the assumption that Lars going to want to switch to a back four. We tried it didn't work, and there's only been one personnel change really within this team in a defensive setup, and that's Collins coming in. So it kind of does. I know it very much seems like the issue was Cody. To want of a better degree at the moment, unless there's a huge upward curve, which I kind of doubt. But I think as we've alluded to previously, to be honest, I don't see us playing a back four every game this season. I think that there's so much versatility if we want to play with back three against, let's say the likes of Man City and have an extra defender. That's when I can see Cody coming in and really kind of helping plug in any gaps. But I think Collins is so far looking like an astute signing for me, and I say hopefully long may it continue. In terms of overall pre-season, it's felt a bit of a funny one personally. I think just because of the slight lack of inactivity in the transfer market. But how would you describe Adam, sort of the overall mood around Wolves at the moment? Because obviously it went a bit funny, and then the signing of Collins helped, and a couple of good pre-season wins has sort of steadied the boat a bit, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take like Inspector Clouseau to crack the case of how we're all feeling. You've only got to look at Wolves' Twitter for 10 seconds to understand like the general mood amongst the natives. I mean, yeah, prior to Collins, I think we were practically on our Twitter hands and knees begging the social media account just to announce someone, well, apart from an esports person, obviously, announce like an actual player, just anyone. And then it just seems to take forever for a player to be announced. And then Collins come along. And there was almost an immediate sort of change in the mood. It's like, all the media are saying this guy is really good and one to watch. I agree with this. And we all just seemed to suddenly, or the pendulum swung a lot, the other side effectively, and we all seemed quite chipper at that point, thinking, okay, well, I'm sure there's more coming. It's safe to say I think the pendulum has swung back the other way, because since Raul's injury, we now effectively are we better off than where we were before? Probably not, because now we don't actually have any strikers at the moment. So the mood is the fact that everyone is just yet again losing their shit, because we just seem to be almost willingly causing self-harm to ourselves. You know, the fact that we just, I don't know, our problems have been staring in the face for us for not just one and not just two, maybe even like 3 seasons now of what we need, and we just seem completely blind, or there are other reasons why. We just are choosing not to address what needs to be addressed. So, I mean, Collins is a good start. We've had people clamouring for Cody to come out of the team, so we're looking to address that by going to a back four. Got Collins in, brilliant. But yet again, we're going into another season with Joao, who, the way it's going, will we have his bus pass, and still be first name on our team sheet in the middle of the park. And then, we knew, we're on dodgy ground relying on Raul after his injury. He's not had a great first season back, but it looks as though, we still, at the moment, we were happy to go in with Raul and someone else rather than provide more competition. We could still have, the glorious return of Catrone into the team, which would be amazing. The pizza pasta club will be formed if he starts or it comes off the bench against Leeds on Saturday. But yeah, the mood, I'd say, cantankerous is the word I would use right now.
That's a good word for a Sunday night, isn't it? I like that word.
You've been playing Scrabble.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I completely agree with all that. I think that kind of is a fantastic summation of the club at the moment, that in cantankerous, that we're kind of just waiting for extra ebb of positivity. So we had it with Collins, we had it with the victory over in Alicante, and it just feels like we just need one more thing this week, because I don't quite know if it feels like we need to win against Leeds to keep the positivity up. And I think if we don't win, I can feel it really not setting off on the right foot compared to, again, this time last season, where we looked at the first 3 games and like, okay, we can see us losing these 3 games, but we'll stay the course and worry about the next, 35. And I don't get that same amount of patience around the club at the moment. Style of play wise, it is pre-season, so it's a really difficult one to judge, in my opinion. But it does seem to be going a bit more towards large ball than, Nuno handbrake ball, would you say, guys?
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. It is. It looks like it's a bit more free flowing, and there's a bit more. There was obviously an emphasis in attack there, which is great to see. But like I mentioned earlier, it's when you need to make that change at 65, 70 minutes is where the issue lies. And when other teams are going to be bringing on their signings or players, reliable players for them, we're going to be bringing on under 23s, unproven players. And yeah, you might get a standout performance from Chem Campbell every 5 games or something like that, but it's going to be one of those where our lack of squad depth will be our biggest hindrance on our style of play, because you can't keep up like gung-ho dynamite football all day long, like as I'm sure Bruno wants us to play. So there's signs there that it's it's going to be a bit more attacking, hopefully a bit more entertaining on the eye as well. But without a few more incomings, which isn't out of the question yet, but it's looking unlikely. But we try and live in hope.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of transfers, I mean, I was going to say, I'm one who literally wrote transfers on my little roundup graphic, and it's more, I guess, around the players themselves, to be honest, because I joke that Gibbs White is essentially like a new signing for this team, but you could argue the same as Neto, who he played about a dozen games last season on and off the bench or whatever, but he seems to have been someone who's back to full fitness now, and especially now we don't have Raul for another 4 to 6 weeks or whatever it is. I mean, he's going to be absolutely vital for us, and we did lack that attacking impetus and that directness sometimes last season, and those are the two things that Neto brings in, in spades.
Does anyone else still think we look a bit like a counter-attacking team? I thought against Lisbon, we looked almost dangerous on the counter, and I don't know if that's because Neto's back or not. But I think style of play generally, yes, pretty good. Fullbacks were nice and high. Let's say centre half splitting, Neves collecting the ball, and we've got an extra body up top. But again, I still think we look better. We look at our best when we're counter attacking. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. To be honest, when we were at our best under Nuno, we were a counter attacking team. To be fair, but yeah, I think whether it's just personnel, we've got quite a lot of speed up there now. So Neto looks back to his old self. Gibbs White doesn't. Isn't slow, neither is Pedence. So maybe it's just because of the players that we've got. But yeah, that's one thing I sort of took out of pre-season, or at least out of the Lisbon game, at least.
Yeah, I think
sorry, I was going to say, Rich, one player I do think could be quite vital to the evolution of this team, and I know Stu will hate this, but I think it could be Dendoncker. I think Dendonker's got this ability to be a bit of a shitbag playing against other teams, and we've never really utilised what are his best assets. I'm not a huge fan of Dendoncker by any stretch, but when you look at his stats, his output is always much better on the defensive side of things, just breaking up play, intercepting the ball. And by moving him from that weird inverted right winger position, like I couldn't even tell you what that position was. He was just occupying a shirt somewhere on the right hand side. But moving him into the middle and giving him this license to move up and down the pitch a bit and be that shit house at the back, but then try and break into the box late. That seems to have helped his game. Granted, it's only been 3 matches so far in pre-season, but I think he could be quite an important player for us going forward this year.
Yeah, you got hope, son. I think it is sort of what we're crying out for. It's we always talk about having that bit of creativity, don't we? That somebody can break into the box, and you could argue having Dendoncker, but yeah, you said like last season, if he doesn't get you goals, what does he give you? And a lot of it's just not measurable things in terms of he harries, he closes down, but he doesn't necessarily win huge amounts of tackles, and his passes are very sideways or very backwards. I'd need to dig it out from the end of season stuff, but his his progressive passing stats were, I think he was in for the 20th percentile for the league or something silly. Which isn't.
I was just going to say, we've got an FB ref thing. Have we got one of FB ref bar charts or an athletic graph that puts it in layman's terms, simpletons like me, as to what he brings to the team?
If you stall long enough, I could potentially find it, but it's such a difficult one. But again, he's someone who I think can make a difference for me. So completely agree that there's a lot of opportunity for him and our fullbacks as well. Johnny's looking tidy. Aït-Nouri's developing again. And again, same with Gibbs White. The main question I was sort of thinking about from pre-season is, do you guys think we've improved squad-wise or quality-wise since we played Liverpool away in May, that last game of the season?
I had to actually look at what the team was for Liverpool away when you raised this. So just for completeness, Sarr in goal, back 3, Totti, Cody, Bolly, then across the middle, Aït-Nouri, Joao, Neves, Donk, Johnny, and Neto and Raul up front. Not massively different from what we've got now, player-wise, obviously.
You could also say, have we improved from the first team we put out against Everton in our first Premier League game? And I think you'll probably get to a similar result of maybe much of a muchness. If you the team off the top of my head, but you had Jota back then. Okay, he wasn't the Jota he is now, but he was still Jota and he was still a great player. Zhao was 4 years younger. Doc,
Bennett.
Bennett, Bennett. Okay, maybe
Costa.
Costa. Costa. Yeah, okay. Again, but would you trade him for Costa back then? Is he any worse than Adama, Trincao? Probably not. Doc, yeah, okay. He's probably not as good a footballer as Aït-Nouri or Semedo, but his output was a lot better. So I think you're tossing a coin whether we've actually improved from the first Premier League game we've had. And that's nothing to do with management. That's nothing to do with players. That's solely on ownership and recruitment, unfortunately.
I think
it's very indicative by our league position.
Sorry, Rich. I think our 11's improved on paper, but our subs bench and our depth has dramatically declined. That's not trying to offend the under 23s that now pad out that bench, but they just haven't got the game time and the experience to make positive impacts when they come on. It's no fault of their own, and that's the issue really. And then what do you do when you get yourself to a point where teams are now throwing an extra 2 subs on it to try and roll the dice and change things, and then we're bringing on like players that look that make Moutinho and make Podence look like 6 foot. It's just beggars belief sometimes, and that's where the frustration comes, because I can't remember who it was on Twitter, so I apologise if they're listening now. But someone had put on Twitter, it might have been Soccer Neophytes, had put with 2 signings away from Champions League and we're 2 injuries away from relegation, and that's like as dramatic as that sounds. That's how it feels at the minute.
Absolutely, and you know what? We look going from this particular pre-season. We're talking about what we've improved in our squad size. You're right. Our bench is appalling. Like I've never known a bench like in our lifetime that's been so bad as this. We're at the minute. I mean, we don't have any options really at the moment. Come whatever point in the game, the standard one will be whoever. If the starting 3 is Neto, Gibbs White, and Podence, then Hwang will naturally come on at some point. That's just naturally that will happen. And even now, going this season, we've got a few players who are going to be they've either had no pre-season or they're going to come in completely undercooked. So got Adama, who again doesn't want to be here, obviously prefers to be in Womber and Sainsbury's on the pre-season tour, but he's like,
most important. Whoa, hang on. Most importantly, in Sainsbury's Womborne, wearing an Adama Spain shirt
and buying crunchy cornflakes as well. So make a note, everyone.
Other cornflakes are available.
But you got him. You got Adama, who's like had no pre-season, doesn't want to be here. Semedo does want to be here, I assume, but no pre-season, so he's going to come in completely undercooked. Raul's going to be undercooked now because he's going to be out for, well, depends whether you believe the medical professionals or his missus. Could be like a couple of weeks or 8 weeks. That depends whether you believe their people. And then I suppose Sar's got 1 game under his belt, hasn't he, for pre-season? But I mean, he'll be fine. I'm sure goalkeepers don't need pre-season today. Just bung him in, he'll be all right. So our squad size is small enough as it is, and we've got a couple of players who now are going to come in completely undercooked into the season, and we know how it goes, don't we, chaps? When a player with no pre-season plays, they're just a shadow of their former self. So, I mean, I don't know. At the minute, it's not looking great, is it? At the minute, we've seen better. we've had better preps for a season.
And the thing is, even if we were to sign some players, we're so close to kick off at this point that no new signing would be able to come in and hit the ground running. They would still need a good 3-4 weeks to get up to speed and get into the Wolverhampton Wanderers way of playing. So, yeah, we're a bit stuck at the minute, aren't we?
If Johnny goes off after 5 minutes against Leeds, who comes on?
Me. I'll have a go.
It's like, you may as well. Because there's no one else.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
Donk, 1,000% donk.
yeah. Why
not? You're right, and even when you look at the, I was going to say the B team, it feels a bit harsh to call them that, but the second string team we played tonight against Forest, We'll go for that pronunciation. Essentially, the back four was all centre halves because our left winger, our left back, Bueno, was playing in a front three.
Mm.
And it's just like, that's not. It just feels like, you know, Jose Mourinho, I think when he first came to Chelsea, was like, you need 2 players for every position. And I'm not saying every model works, but it sort of does if you just don't have, you need the numbers as much as anything else. And, you know, when you hear Scott Sellers in our schools saying, yeah, well, Wolves played their best when we had the most injuries. Yeah, it's because it's in spite of that, not because of it, you thick fucking idiot. Like, we're gonna, it's like, oh, Raul's got injured. Who'd have thought it'll happen to, then Donker at some point, or Martinho or Neves, because having 3 senior central midfielders isn't sustainable across a 40-game season. We literally showed that last season. And I like Gibbs White. I'm probably his biggest fan in the Fancast, to be fair. But he ain't a central midfielder. We'd have to change that system to incorporate someone like that. You've got Kundal, who I probably need to loan move. Ronan, who, to be fair, he's looked tidy in pre-season. Whether he's Premier League quality to drop in, which would be what would be happening, and to play 4 games on the spin, I'm unsure on. You say the fact that we don't have that investment, I think, is criminal. But you know what, guys? I'm interested to pin you down on paper / an Excel spreadsheet on actually how positive we're feeling. So we're going to do our predictions, guys. We're going to hear from Gully talking about Pixel Yeti Media, and we'll be back in about 45-second times. See you in a sec.
Hi all, Gully from Wolves Fancast here, and just like all of you long-suffering Wolves fans, I know exactly what it feels like to be lacking a creative spark here, some outside-of-the-box thinking there, but our sponsors Pixel Yeti Media are here to help. They're a creative agency that cover all of your web design, branding and marketing needs, with our very own wolvesfancast.com, a fine example of their work. So much so that I hear Jeff Shee is looking to do a deal this summer. For now, it's back to the team to ask just where the Diogo Jota money is gone. We may have just had our answer.
And we're back.
We're back and alive and well. Rich may not be.
Hello, welcome back. I have literally no idea what happened throughout that. It just froze on my side of things. It went completely silent. All I could see was the mics being turned off. I'm letting people behind the curtains here, so apologies.
It's a DDoS cyber attack. Fosun have heard we're shaming them, and they're trying to take us off the air.
I was going to say, do you think Jeff and Scott heard me about what I said about Scott Sellers? Don't worry, I'm sure people have said much worse things about him on the internet, so it's completely fine. Right. I'll move on before I have to get in touch with the Fancast boys. Right, guys, it's my favourite time of pre-season. It's prediction time. So I've split it up this year because I want to get your thoughts on Wolves, but also the league in general. So play along at home. If you're watching live on YouTube, big thanks. Make sure you smash the like button and tap the subscribe. All the other way around, I don't really mind. But we're going to do the Wolves ones first. As I mentioned, I'm going to genuinely, my plan is, and we'll see if I fail come May, is we'll put it all in a spreadsheet and then we'll see if we can get us 4 back on, well, us 5 back on in May, and we'll see how far we were off. So, firstly, Wolves related, guys, we'll do a quick sort of round robin on this. Where do you all think Wolves are going to finish this season? So, Matt, chiefly because you were the first one to log on to StreamYard, you're going to be up first. And what we'll do is we'll go Matt, Tom, Adam, Andy, and then for the next round we'll go we go Andy, Adam, Tom, Matt.
Some women find punctuality incredibly attractive. Let's just put that out there. So 13th is where we finish.
Ooh.
I've got 11th.
How about you?
11th. Be a bit more optimistic.
Pricey?
Ever positive, but slightly heavy dose of realism. I've gone for a maximum of a 10th position is where we'll finish, which is probably where we are now, isn't it? Or last season.
And Andy, what about you?
I'm going slightly ahead of the rest. I think 9th.
Ooh. Well, I also had 9th, Andy, if it makes you feel any better.
That's good.
Okay. As I say, why I think we're going, I don't know. I still shouldn't be so this pessimistic for it all, because I think we do have some quality players in there. Okay. I reckon I probably know most people's answer to this one, but who do you think Wolves player for season's likely to be?
I
We'll
think
start back with
I think it will be Neto, purely on output and more attacking chances with a more attacking play.
How about you, Tom?
If he stays, then Neves.
Yeah, that's where. To be fair, that's where my head's at. I think he's just brilliant and gorgeous. I will move away from this Mancus eventually. Pricey, pull me out of it.
I'll pull you out of that. I'm playing my KKC card. My player of the season will be King Kilman.
Lovely old job. And Andy?
I'm going to side with you again, Rich and Tom. And I think the team is built up to showcase Ruben Neves, and it will be his season.
Now, the next one we're going to do, I'm almost a little bit embarrassed just because it's going to be the most awkward one. Top goal scorer.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? Really, like you would hope it would be Jimenez, but I think it should be top scorer and then a bracket like they do with ages of like 0 to 9, 9 to 15, 16 to 20. So I'd say Jimenez, but I'm gonna be more optimistic and I'm gonna go 10 to 15.
Oh, lovely.
And I've gone Neto, and I think he might just creep in up to double figures, 8, 9, 10, something like that. Hopefully 10ish.
Adam, please tell me you've gone wank.
I have not gone for wank. Sorry, no, I haven't. I have also gone for Neto, and if you probably put me on the number, you know how in the video printers when someone scores 7 goals, I put in the word after it 7. That's my prediction for what he'll score. 7.
It somewhat implies when you say that he's going to score 7 in a game and then just score none for the next 37 games, but he'll like just bang it. Like we'll beat. I don't know. Like let's say we beat Leeds 7-0, and then I don't know. He does his cruciate after scoring 7 goals. That's how I see that happening.
If all the 7 come against Bournemouth, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Andy, how about you?
I think Neto's going to have a really good season, but I think Jimenez will get the most goals just because he's going to be our only striker.
Yeah, I mean, it is very much like it's a toss-up between those two, and it does. It's very much slim pickings at the moment, isn't it? I'm going to go for Jimenez just because I think, again, he's going to be on penalties. Is my logic, and if he can find that bit of form he showed this pre-season, he didn't really have much form going into last season from pre-season. Obviously, there's such a focus around his injury. Whether I think he can get, upwards of 15 goals, I'm not quite sure, but hopefully he's at least going to get into double figures. And you say hopefully one of the other, hopefully like Neto can get nearer to it rather than this year where we had 4 players on around 4 or 5 goals, which is abysmal. Okay, so we're kind of blessed in a way that we have quite a young squad in general, but who do you think is likely to be the young player of the season?
I think because when you think of young player of the season, I tend to try and avoid like established senior players, even though they are young. So I think with the lack of current striker options, I do think Chem Campbell, if he stays and doesn't go on loan, will end up bagging a few and become a bit of a fan favourite. So I'm going to go for Chem Campbell.
Yeah, I'm really annoyed because that was going to be my shout. But yeah, exactly that logic. It feels harsh when, like, we big up Ait Nori, who's 21, so I feel like you could probably get away with it. But at the same time, he's played about 4 seasons worth of football now. But Tom, where's your head at?
We'll have to give him more time then, because I don't know. I
Fair
was going
enough.
the old Premier League rules where they could be up to about 24. You know, and they call everything.
You could go to like. To be fair, I got in a debate with someone online the other day who said 24 was still young. I think they classed Connor Ronan as a young player. I was like, I can't class 24 as being young, can you? Like, he's played in like 7 seasons of football, so I'm not. Yeah, but I'll let you have Ait Nori because he is still very young and developing.
If not, I'll go for the Hugo Bueno.
Yeah,
if I'm not allowed.
Yeah, essentially his backup. So basically, we'll just give it to left wing back. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Pricey.
Yeah, same for me. Really, I was going off those rules and Ait Nori because he's already a superstar, isn't he? He's mature. He just seems like a complete package, doesn't he? From when we first got him to now, when he shackled Salah for an entire game on his own. So yeah, I think he's the obvious choice. Really, we can all see his quality already, clear as day now. So I think he'll probably end up with that one in the bag, to be honest.
Yeah. Andy,
that's
how
a
about
comment
you?
from Matt Bradley.
Yeah, I just saw Matt Bradley's comment. I like that.
Yeah, Matt's commented on YouTube. I'm going to be stupidly optimistic and say our top goal scorer is someone we haven't signed yet, and as still with her follows up Benteke top goal scorer. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Andy, how are you feeling for young player for season?
I was going to go with someone who's not established themselves in the team, but it's someone who we have seen before, and I think that Gibbs White is going to really make strides this season.
Yeah.
He was a player I've always liked him, but we've never really given him the time of day. As you can see from his numerous loan moves, we've kind of fucked him around a little bit when he has been here. So I'm hoping now that Lars has obviously embraced him and he seems to have given him that right berth, that he can really excel there. And don't get me wrong, I completely agree with Tom. Ait Nuri looks phenomenal already and he's in for a good season. But I think we could see the most progress of any player from Gibbs White.
No, fingers crossed. Okay, the next one, I don't feel like necessarily explain myself well, which isn't going to be great for an audio or video production. But I've got surprise player of the season. So this could be like I'm half inspired by like the NFL comeback player of the season, or someone who almost like Kilman last season. Now he wasn't player of the season, but I think he surprised many with the development he made and his performances across the whole season. Or Semedo would be another good example. So someone who you think is going to have a really strong season, but maybe not quite to the level of your player of the season, but will still kind of, I guess, change a lot of opinions in fans' minds.
Yeah, for me, it's that Captain Raymond Holt meme of vindication like that when I think this is Dendonker's time to shine because he's an established Belgian international and he's one of these players that I think excels in any club in this league other than Wolves as it stands. But I really feel with this formation change we can start to see some output for him. In all the pre-season propaganda that comes out from the club, he's looked sharp as well. He looks up for it. So I'll go for Dendonker.
Tom, how about you? Who do you think is going to surprise a few down Molineux?
I will echo that from Matt. I agree. I think Dendonker's really impressed me pre-season. He's surprised me. So, fits the bill for this sort of category. But I'm going to sort of echo what Andy said earlier about Gibbs White and, what you touched on about like sort of fans. It was sort of like a redemption almost. I think yeah, I think this might be Gibbs White's season. So I think he's got a manager now and a system. He's got everything in place now for him to succeed. If he doesn't succeed this season, that's it. It's curtains, I think. But I'm really optimistic from what I've seen in pre-season and how he's linking up with the other players across that line and interchanging really nicely. Yeah, I think this is his year.
Nice.
Well, I read this initially, Rich, as I thought this was surprise moment of the season, and I've written the odd first good touch from Hwang. So I'll think on my feet. Sorry, clean slate.
Don't worry. I can pull that into into somewhere else. You're fine. You hold on to that fantastic thought.
I'll keep that. But yeah, player of the season. My thoughts are in line with Matt's really around Dendoncker because. I won't go into the weeds of it now, but Dendoncker depends what people expect him to be. That's what I've always said about Dendoncker. I don't know if people must have different expectations of him, and he's as Matt said, he's an established Belgian international, so he must be doing something right somewhere on the line. He's not terrible, he's not shit. So I think, I think we might see a few more goals from him this year as well. I see him getting on the end of some Gibbs White or Neto crosses. So, yeah, I'm going to go with that as well for Dendoncker.
Yeah, I agree with
Andy.
Yeah, it's Dendoncker. I think, as I said earlier, he's really impressed me in the pre-season games. One thing I really liked about him in the pre-season games, he was doing the horrible stuff of the game. When he was getting fouled, he was getting back up and he was then giving it to the opposition. And we've always missed that bit of a nasty bastard. And I'm hoping that this summer, that's what Dendoncker's transformed into, that bit of a shitbag that we need, who's just going to stick a foot in and maybe leaves a stud on someone. That sort of horribleness. That's what I want from him now.
Do you feel like when Sace left the club, like he passed the metaphorical baton of shithousery onto Dendoncker?
Yeah, that's very much where it's going, isn't it? He's going to be the next one.
It's just good. I can't really imagine like a Belgium heel, but I feel like there's definite potential for it. Maybe he's going to have to be like more of a silent, ruthless, almost like a secondary Bond villain sort of vibe. But I think he can step up to be a shithouse, definitely. Okay, so a serious one, then a silly one. Do you think that Lage will be in charge all season?
Ooh, controversial. Yes, I do. I think. Go on.
I was going to say I struggled with the phrasing of this to not create a agenda or narrative. But yeah, like, do you think there's a chance he could get sacked at some point in the season, or do you think he's going to be our manager this time next year?
I think because of the teams that have come up and some of the absolute shambles that some teams ended the season, I don't think we'll be in a position where we're flirting too heavily with relegation. So I don't think Lage goes this season. My only concern is that he's seen as this steady pair of hands that can work miracles with not a lot of players. So Fosun keep him on. Because he does that at the expense of kind of moving the club on if that's what it needed. But no, I hope he does, and I think he will.
Okay. Tom, how about you?
I don't think he'll get sacked during the season, but I've got my doubts whether he'll be in charge this time next year, if that makes sense. I think they might make a change in the summer, but I think they'll run the course of the season.
Interesting. Slightly. Okay, I like it. Adam, how about you?
Yeah, kind of similar thoughts. So you can tell from the interviews he's done and his general demeanour how grateful he is to be here, and not necessarily just at Wolves, but in the Premier League. That's where he wants to be. I think it would take something dramatic for him to walk away from that. I don't think he'll get sacked because we were terrible under Nuno for pretty much a whole season, and Nuno wasn't sacked. We waited till the end. Obviously, it's all very much dependent on how the season goes, but I think we're much more likely, as Tom said, to take stock come the end of the season. I think we'd have to have an absolute implosion for a part of the ways, during the course of the season. So, yeah, my money is on him of large in charge until the end of the season.
Lovely.
Yeah. He's got to be frustrated at the lack of transfer activity, but I don't think he will leave before the end of the season. I think he will stick it out, but then surely they've got to give him some kind of indication to make him want to stay. I don't think we'll sack him. I really don't, because I don't think there's enough out there to really replace him with, and will have to be in an absolutely catastrophic position for that to happen. And as Matt pointed out, there's some real shit teams in this league, and there are teams who are on a real bad run of form that I can see taking forward next season. So I don't think we'll get rid of him. I just wonder whether he will be happy with Titan purse strings.
Yeah, I think my sort of thought process is that, like even when Wolves have been bad, like we've still been better than 7 teams in this division as a minimum. And like you can't go, well, if the back 4 doesn't work, we'll go to a back 5 and we'll grind out, a win, lose, draw type of form. But you're right, whether he's here this time next season, I think is a slightly different debate. So last one on our predictions is when during the season, so the cut-off point is arguably now, when's the first Twitter meltdown going to happen?
Well, it could be tomorrow, could be now. You could start the clock now, and it's already happened. But I think
can you
the first
imagine if it's happened whilst we've been recording this?
Could be. I think the first real one is when Catrone is on the bench versus Leeds. I think that's the one that is the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. I mean, there's been a few funny meltdowns already. Some good, some bad. The season ticket scarf thing is like people are moaning about that. That's pretty funny. But then one of my favourite meltdowns so far of the season, or not was it really a meltdown? It was just Twitter excitement. Was when we thought we'd signed a new player and Dendonka just had a haircut. It was tremendous.
Lovely odd job. Tom, how far do you think we're getting into the season?
The minute after the transfer window closes, the Twitter arty will go mad. We all know what Twitter's like, and usually it revolves around not signing players. I'm not saying I disagree with everyone, because I think we'll all agree on here that we are very much lacking in the player signing department. But it'll be as soon as the window closes, because they won't be happy that we haven't signed a Renato Sanchez et al.
Yeah, I had in my notes, not after it closed, but just on transfer deadline day at 6 p.m. When it's just become very apparent that we're not people will come up the next day and be like, okay, this is what we'll do, this is how it will work, Gomez will be brilliant and whatever. But it's like, actually it turns out Renato Sanchez isn't coming after all. This is a bit awkward. That's gonna be my point. Pricey, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, God bloody hell, we've had enough meltdowns up to now to last us a few nuclear winters. But I mean, it's going to be the night of deadline day. It'll start from as soon as people wake up on the deadline day. This is as if we haven't signed anyone up until this point, obviously. And for the rest of that day, it'll just be unbearable, won't it? Absolutely unbearable if there's no signings incoming. And then I wouldn't even want to bother trying to search hashtag WWFC that night on deadline day. If I imagine Scott Sellers will be mentioned profusely, so if I was him, I'd just delete the app on that night if he hasn't sorted anyone out by then. But it's all for me. All centres around deadline day. with the next big Twitter meltdown?
See, I think it'll be at 4:17 on Saturday when Hwang has come on the pitch. He's tearing down the left wing, and the ball goes out of play for a goal kick, and the fans will just lose their shit because that's generally what happens when Hwang's on there. So that's what I think. 4:17 on Saturday.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
hang on. Let me just note the time of that so I can deliver on that, Andy. So it was
4:17. Yeah.
Right, on Saturday. Right, got you.
I was say, before we do the Premier League overall ones, I just want to sort of pull up. I was going to say slightly breaking news, but not frankly positive. Or really want to discuss. But in the pre-season game that Wolves played today, I'll read out the statement from the club that we're very disappointed to report that one of our players, Hwang Ki-chan, was the target of discriminatory abuse from opposition fans during this evening's game against FC Firenze. We'll be reporting the incidents to UEFA and asking our opponent and relevant authorities to investigate. And yeah, I just sort of want to sort of pull out because I think there's, I think I speak for everyone in the fan cast that there's, genuinely no place to fight in the game. And if you think there should, then unfollow and unsubscribe, frankly. Because we make jokes about Hwang and some of the players and things like that, but at the end of the day, there are people too, and that shouldn't be condoned ever, in my opinion. I'll drag you back to being silly again now. But yeah, just because it's been sort of confirmed in the last sort of 20 minutes or so. Right. So we've talked about Wolves, our predictions around Wolves, and I think to be fair, we all kind of have a similar sort of trail of thought in one way or another. We're going to finish around that mid-table point. We're frankly not going to score a lot of goals, and the fans are going to go apoplectic before we get to September. Let's focus on the league in general then. So, who do you think is going to be the champion?
I can't see past City again this season. I don't think one slightly iffy Community Shield performance means that Halland's now writ off. And I think with what they've got with the 5 sub rule, I think they'll blow it away. I don't even think it'll be close.
Yeah, I agree.
Tom, how about you?
Yeah, it'll be City. Pretty certain of that. Yeah, and I think they're going to go mad. I think they'll go gung-ho for the Champions League, but they've got the squad to go for both. So, yeah, I think they're just relentless, and I can't see it changing.
Tom, were you going to say they're going to go mad for it then?
Yeah, they're going to go mad for it, mate. They're going to go mad for it.
I don't think you meant the pun, but I like it.
I'm the same. I mean, last season they didn't have a striker and didn't score the most goals ever in the Premier League without an actual striker, and now they've got 2, one of the most coveted strikers in world football. So, them and Liverpool, those Liverpool, they are relentless. Both of them, absolute juggernauts, the pair of them. But City have bought very smart in the summer, so they don't really have much of a weakness, do they? Really? So, yeah. Cities again.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree, and I agree with Tom. I think they're going to go for the Champions League. I can honestly see them doing a clean sweep. They've got such strength in depth that they could field 2 or 3 teams that would beat most teams in this country. So, yeah, City.
Yeah, same. Unfortunately, I wish I was going to say, it's going to be Liverpool, or it's going to be Chelsea or something like that. I just can't see it. Like, even if Haaland doesn't fire an all cylinders to start with, it almost doesn't matter, which is what I find frankly terrifying, to be honest. Okay, so that's at the top of the table. What about at the bottom? So who do we think are the 3 teams most likely to get relegated?
I think it's going to be a surprise this season. I think there are some teams, like Andy said, who are going to take their poor form, continue that poor form. And I think your exuberism and your style of play when you come up is so important. Like when Leeds did it, I think Forest will do the same in terms of they'll stay up this season, they'll go down the following seasons. But I think Everton are doomed. I really do. I think there's some things really badly wrong with that club. Now Richarlison's gone as well. It's going to go from bad to worse. Southampton's form was atrocious at the end of the season, and I don't see them doing amazing things in the league either. I think they get dragged into it. And then Bournemouth, I do think, goes down with them. So Everton, Southampton and Bournemouth for me.
That's interesting. Only one newly promoted team. How about you, Tom?
I've only gone for one newly promoted team as well, actually, which is Bournemouth as well. And sort of, echoing what Matt said there, I think second season syndrome, or I think Brentford are going to struggle. I think they'll get found out a little bit. Their form at the end of last season wasn't great. And we see it all the time. I mean, Sheffield United that one year had a brilliant season, and they just absolutely found out their overlapping, centre halves and all that sort of stuff. I think Premier League's just managers are just so smart that they work you out pretty quick. And I think Leeds might struggle. I know they've spent a lot of money, but they've lost their two best players, and they didn't have much else, if I'm being truthful, in that team, in my opinion, apart from those players. Manager, I'm not convinced by either. So I'm going to go on Bournemouth, Leeds and Brentford.
Pricey, I know what you're going to have one of those teams at the very least.
You know which one? It's like Matt. It's like Matt has read my pad, because I've got Bournemouth, Everton, and Saints as my 3 to go down. Similar reasons really. Bournemouth, one, I want them to go down anyway, but 2, back from whence you came. And I just don't think they're good enough anyway. I just think they'll just drop right back down. Everton, for the same reasons has been said. I think Lampard looked out last year, to be honest. The squad, they've been relying heavily on Calvert-Lewin to get them out of many holes. And I don't think they've bought the desired quality to stay up. And then Saints, I put Saints because for the last season or two, they just seem to be there. They're just there. They just occupy a league position. And Hasenhüttl sometimes flies by the seat of his pants, doesn't he? He was rated in some quarters, and like some ex-Van Castians who really fated, wasn't he? But then sometimes he gets his annual 9-0 slapping by some team. And I just don't think. I just think this is the year where, and like we said, there's always one established name that really gets drawn into trouble. And I think this year they will get drawn into it, and I just don't see where the quality comes from to get out of it. So, Bournemouth, Everton, and Saints for me.
Yeah, I think, as everyone said, Bournemouth so far, because I also think Bournemouth are gone. They've got a championship team and a championship manager, so for me, Bournemouth are going to probably be propping up the table. Everton had a dead team last season that just about survived on the work that their previous manager did. It wasn't anything Frank Lampard did that kept them in this league. They did just enough to get them over the line before they brought in the death knell that is Frank Lampard. And I don't think he will last the season. The final position, part of me wants it to be Forest, because it'd be fucking hilarious for them to pay all that money to Jesse Lingard and then they get relegated. But I've got a feeling it might be Leeds, because I think it was Tom, wasn't it, who also said Leeds, for exactly the same reasons, that they've lost their best players and they haven't really strengthened. The manager seemed to get quite lucky at points last season. And whilst luck is always a good thing to have on your side, eventually it does run out. So I think Leeds could be in for a bit of a tumultuous year.
Yeah, I mean, I had my 3 were exactly the same as Tom's, to be fair. Bournemouth, Brentford, Leeds. I think, Fulham have done the yo-yo just about enough. Although they keep changing managers and things like that, I just think they might just have enough to finish 15th, 16th. Forest, their run, literally since they sacked Chris Hughton and Steve Cooper, has been nothing short of phenomenal. But you're right, Bournemouth just feel like a good championship team, whereas I feel that Forest potentially have that momentum. And again, Brentford, they seem to have got propelled by having Christian Eriksen, and like it was fortunate for them in a way, and it was a mutual beneficial relationship that Eriksen was at Brentford. But I think he was the catalyst in just propping them up, almost like Christophe Dugarry, nearly 20 odd years ago for Birmingham City, just that extra bit of quality. And if I see you, Tom, you're right, but they'll get found out. I think the fact that Wolves figured them out after one game. What's everyone else going to do? And then Leeds losing Phillips, losing Rafinha. Those are big losses for them. Right, 3 more to go, gents. So, similar to the surprise player for Wolves, who do you think are going to be a bit of a surprise package in the Premier League this season? Which team do you think is going to, finish a bit higher than most would expect, Matt?
I think that we're looking at the first season where the battle for second is more interesting than the battle for first, and I think that Spurs will take Liverpool right to the end of the season. They've signed some incredible players, and they've for once Spurs have really threw the money at it, and they're giving their manager a chance. And I think the league needs someone to dethrone one of Liverpool or City. Like Kulusevski, he'll have a season. Ivan Perisic, even though he's on a free transfer, he's a player that can provide, and obviously Richarlison as well. I just think it's going to be Clement Longley as well. I just think that it's going to be really exciting to see what Spurs can do. Hopefully not at our expense for 6 points of the season, but I think they'll be a surprise to be the ones to dethrone Liverpool for second place potentially.
Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines. But I don't know if it would be a surprise to see them finish third or something. But I think Spurs will have a really, really good season. I think they've bought really, really well. They've bought Premier League experience, then sort of sprinkled that with some genuine quality from abroad. So the Basuma is a brilliant signing for them in an area I think they were lacking. As Matt said, Perisic, good signing. Romero looked brilliant last season, and he'll obviously be a bit more established. And they've got Richarlison up front just to supplement Kane and Son. So I completely agree. I think Spurs will be one of the better sides this season for sure.
How about you, Andy?
No.
Adam, even sorry, I don't know. That's on me.
I was going to say just to be a bit different, if you will allow me to invert the question slightly, I've gone for my surprise package, not someone who will do well, someone who will do not so well, and I've gone for Leicester with that, in so much that I think that they will drop like a stone this year. I know it's obviously been well documented that they remain to this day, I believe, the only Premier League team and probably one of only 2 teams in the whole of Europe who've yet to officially sign a player and a new player yet. I just think that a few things are going to catch up with them now. So their reliance on Vardy will finally run out. There's a bit of unrest with the goalkeeper who they're looking to potentially ship out. They've got no money to, if we as Wolves fans want to sign players, Leicester apparently have zero money to buy players unless they sell some of the existing high value assets, which is something they don't want to do. So they're a bit stuck in a vicious cycle. And I don't know, I could just see the whole mood dropping at that club and the wind completely coming out of sails. And I just think they'll be almost as if they're being plugged from the mains. I just see them just dropping right down, given the current state they're in. In my alternative surprise package, I'm going for Leicester, and I think they'll be down there this year.
That's interesting. I don't disagree with any of that. Andy, how about you?
I've actually gone with 2. So I've got one I think will do slightly better and one I think will do slightly worse than expected. I think Newcastle probably aren't in for the season their fans are hoping for. Because they've got this blood money, they seem to think that they're going to be up there challenging. As Newcastle fans generally seem to think they are anyway. But they've sort of come to the realization that that blood money doesn't necessarily mean you're going to bring in players, because you're still a bit of a shit team at the end of the day. So I think Newcastle could end up being lower half of the table. I think Fulham might be around mid-table. I think a lot of clubs are going to expect them to finish. A lot of fans, are going to expect them to finish 17th-ish. I can actually see them finishing lower mid-table, like maybe around 12th, 13th. It might just be because I like Tony Khan because of wrestling reasons, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for Fulham. I was never a big fan of Marco Silva, but he's got him playing some really good stuff last season, and they may just ride that wave of momentum. So I think Fulham could be in for a better season than expected.
Well, I only had one, and it was to do better than expected. And on the similar lines of Matt and Tommy have gone for Spurs, I've gone for Arsenal. Because they're a team who are still quite on the young side, still developing. I think they've made a couple of. I think the signing of Zinchenko is a really good one. And Gabriel Jesus, he didn't quite do it at whatchamacallit, Man City to a degree. But I still think he's got an abundance of quality. They've even players who have returned. So like William Saliba at the back seems to be a really good player as well. So they've quietly strengthened there. And I think players like Odegaard really impressed me last season. I can see again him pushing on, like Saka pushing on. And you're right. Do us even winning the title, even pushing for top position? No. But between Liverpool, Spurs, and Arsenal, I think you've got a really interesting race for who could finish. Who could finish second? To be honest, I think Man United are way down the road, aren't they? Right, penultimate one. Who's going to finish top goal scorer?
You linked me up quite nicely there, because I think Gabriel Jesus will be this league's top goal scorer, because whilst I said only mere minutes ago that one bad Champions League Community Shield doesn't say he's going to have a bad season. I think because of City's ability to have goals from nearly anywhere on the pitch, whereas Arsenal they don't have goal scorers in every position that City do. I think the majority of the goals will come from Jesus, and therefore I think he's in more of a line to win a golden boot. So yeah, Gabriel Jesus for me.
Tom?
I was really torn between Kane or Salah. Obviously Haaland's quality, but I think he'll get rotated out enough. They don't need to play him against some of the lesser teams if they've got a big Champions League game, a few days afterwards. So I'll just edge towards Kane.
Yeah, I was going Kane, to be fair, as well.
I've been very boring with this one. I still can't see past Salah, because Haaland, as good as he is, I think will probably take a year to bed in, and they'll still get a reasonable number of goals. But Liverpool, when they're playing against some of the newly promoted teams, or the teams that we perceived as being a bit short on quality, like your existing teams like Everton and Saints, they blow these teams away, and Salah normally gets a brace against these sort of teams. So I think he'll rack up the goals quite quick again. So yeah, it's not an inspired choice, but I still can't see past Salah.
I've gone with Son. I think that very much for the reasons that Matt and Tom think that Spurs might be their surprise package. I can see Spurs having a really good season, and anything good that seems to happen at Spurs, it's always Son. Like, Kane's a great player, he's a great goal scorer, but he does have this tendency to go missing for patches. He can be a very patchy kind of a player, whereas Son is so much more reliable. So I can see Son really kicking on this season, and I think he'll probably earn a move to one of the top clubs next summer.
Okay. I've also gone Kane. I think it's still sort of very much a toss-up between the likes of Kane and Salah, to be honest, and Son, and who can do it. If there's an outside chance that someone like Jay's doing it, it'll be interesting to see. Right, lastly, and we'll wrap it up from there. Will be what is one thing you'd love to see happen in the Premier League this season? You can go serious, you can go silly. Matt, the floor is yours.
Well, I'd love to see it happen, and I think it will happen as well. That despite all of the negativity that goes on at the moment in the fan base, out of the 4 Midlands teams, I think we finished the highest. Adam's point about Leicester dropping absolutely will happen. Villa. I think Forest will have a good season, but not a spectacular season. So I think in the top of the Midlands tree, I still think we finish highest, but that's what I'd love to see.
Very nice, very nice. Tom, how about you?
I've gone that the media finally realised that Jurgen Klopp is a dickhead. And that no one likes Liverpool, and this thing about them being media darlings just gets shot down because it's doing my head in. It was on again at the weekend. They're at it again on the Charity Shield stuff. Like this thing about, I don't know, this Liverpool loving. I don't get it personally, and I don't think the general public do either. To be honest, it just seems to be the media just seems to have this loving with Liverpool and Klopp. It pisses me off. So that's mine.
I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Klopp, so I can happily get on board with that. Adam?
The one I'd love to see, I said it last year, it didn't happen, so I think it'll happen this year. And at one point, at one game of the season, we'll see a squirrel on the pitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of my answers would have been squirrel on the pitch. Or animal on the pitch.
And this is a bit fantasy now, but an extra bonus point if it's a climate change squirrel.
Stop oil.
So I've gone with Eddie Howe gets called over to Saudi Arabia to speak to his management team, and that's a ginger man. He comes back burnt as a crisp.
I'm just writing these down notes of just like scribbled out Eddie Howe sunburn and I feel like when I look back on this in 10 months' time, that's going to hold zero context, isn't it?
He might not come back, Andy.
That is true.
Yeah.
As my other guess was, he gets buried in sand up to his head.
Yes. Mine, I'm a big fan of goalkeeper scoring.
Yes, doesn't happen enough.
No. You get a couple of the freak ones, and I know Alisson scored one against West Brom, which, again, I had mixed emotions because it's a goalkeeper scoring and it's against West Brom, but it is Liverpool. So, I took the 2 out of 3 ain't bad approach on that one. So, yeah, I'd love Sarr to score. I can't think of like in what context. Just coming up for a corner, and I can't see Sarr scoring a header, but I can see him sliding in at the back post and just throwing everything at it and just taking 3 players and the ball into the back of the net with him. So, I'm going goalkeeper score goal. Fingers crossed it's Sarr. But that wraps it up for today, gents. I'm going to try my best to not lose this wonderful spreadsheet of madness. And hopefully we can pull this back when we got through the next 38 league games of madness. And hopefully our predictions for Wolves are way off and we finish in the top. Well, hopefully we finish first. You never know. But hopefully it can be a fun and enjoyable season for Wolves fans. Big thanks to everyone who's listening and everyone who's tuned in on YouTube. As I said, make sure you like, share and subscribe. It does amazing for us to kind of help grow the channel and what we're trying to do here at the Fancast. And big thanks to our sponsors, Pixel Yeti Media and to 90 Min Football Network. Make sure you follow us on all our social networks as well. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well. It's all Wolves Fancast, so we're nice and easy to find. Until next time, when we will be back on Thursday evening to preview the Leeds game. It's goodbye from Matt.
Peace.
It's goodbye from Tom.
See you guys. Well done, England women. Did us proud.
Oh yeah, completely forgot to mention that. I got so emotional watching the end of that. I think any time you beat the Germans, you can't beat it, can you?
Mm.
It's goodbye from Pricey.
Yeah, they finally came home. Well done.
And it's goodbye from Andy.
Keep it real.
It's goodbye from me. See you next time.